All right, patrons, welcome to the patron portion. Thanks for flipping over. It's
Thank you.
we see who the real committed ones are who are here on our I think like 9-person stream, but that's awesome. It's you know, we're gonna answer the questions. Although because this goes out this goes out later as a podcast, so we'll
you make it sound so freaking lame. Like 9 people are listening. They listen on the podcast on their drive to work the next morning.
That's what I was just about to say.
And then you get 30,000 listeners.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, hey, they're going to hear this later for sure.
Don't make it sound like it's Seth's drive time theology.
The Christian commute. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't make it sound something like that.
Well,
we have actual listeners.
Now, to be fair, I listen to Seth when I can.
Seth's only listener is my daughter
and me
and you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so that I can fight with him later in the comm box.
I'm like, why do you fall asleep listening to Christian Commute? And she's like, Seth's voice puts me to sleep.
See,
like,
so Frank and Sherry are on the live stream. Andrew Harrison.
Why do you want him to marry you? Because we're flying up Seth to marry him. I'm like, why do you want him to marry you? And she's like, I don't know. I like Seth. Like,
he's likable most of the time. Just
weird.
Like you, likable most of the time.
He is likable most of the time. And might I add, Seth is excellent with a shotgun. He's an excellent bird hunter. Yeah, you never would have thought.
Yeah.
But
we got patrons on. Frank and Sherry are on. Andrew's on. I mean, obviously it's only patrons now. So Adam's on. We get, Espresso is on.
Dude. What's up, guys?
But I have a whole litany of questions. So we better get to them.
Okay, let's get to them.
All right. So, I have a follow-up question to Pastor JD's response to our question last night. By last night, this was last week now. I was looking at the duties of deacons at our church in light of what Pastor JD said. 2 of the duties concern me as giving the female deacons authority. They are assisting the pastor with spiritual care of the congregation and assisting the pastor in communion and baptism.
No. Now, well, assisting, what does that mean? I need to clarify that. Our female deacons would make sure that the women being baptized had towels, that they had their robes, that they had their clothes, that they weren't wearing white t-shirts, so it's not a wet t-shirt contest. I think that type of assisting is okay. Standing there in the water, helping them come back down and up. First of all, are you baptizing cows that need help coming up out of the water? I've baptized like 3 people I've been concerned I could lift back up out of the water. And it's water, so it wasn't a problem.
Well, you tell them to tuck their feet so they can just sort of pivot in the water,
Well,
if they need to, if you can't lift them.
It's the tucking of the knees that's the most important part. Yeah. And bending the knees, not at the waist, is most important. But anyways,
but this sounds like it's more than that. If they're assisting in communion and baptism, it sounds like it's more than that.
Communion, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, and so therefore I would be against it. To be blunt, I don't think that it is per se unbiblical, but in the times that we're living in where gender roles are very confused, I believe it would be helpful for the church to reinforce gender roles, starting, with the diaconate. Hey, you know what? In different time and place, we might have women deacons, but this ain't that time and place.
All right. So next question. I know Let's see. Oh, so this was part of the same question. Just want to make sure we're going to the best church possible in the area where we live. Now, would you consider, at what point would you consider women serving as deacons to be problematic enough that you wouldn't recommend somebody go to that church or be a member of that church?
The moment they're helping the pastor baptize people.
And I would say,
or if they're given, it's like if they're given authority that is outside the delegation of the pastor. So my deacons don't have any authority delegated outside of the elders. So like we tell them, we say, we want accountability. Elders don't handle money. So you tell us what we are allowed to give away to pay someone's water bill or to put gas in their, to fill them up at the gas tank, at the gas station across town. If we have questions, we'll call you. They set the benevolence budget, but they set the benevolence budget on our behalf so we don't have to touch or deal with money, just to keep our hands, clean. And without having people suspect or whatever, that pastor's stealing from the offering plate. So these are responsibilities. I wouldn't even call them authority. I would say responsibilities. They have responsibilities. And we have women deacons in our church. Absolutely. We just don't call them deacons. They're servants, and they come and they clean the church, and they clean, the bathrooms and the toy room or the cry room. And that sounds misogynistic, but my male deacons fix my cars when they break down, and they work security, and they run the video cameras and do the tech work and fix the copier and take care of taxes and insurance and things like that. So they also do grunt work. They don't have any authority delegated to them outside of the elder body. So they're there to serve. They're there to serve the body. There might be an exception. Let me think of an exception in our bylaws. Nope, can't think of one.
Well, and let me ask you this: where is the considering that being a deacon is an appointed or ordained, depending on how you want to say it, office, specifically talked about.
It's specifically, it's not ordained.
Okay. Well, okay, so let me say it this way. It has biblical qualifications. There are things, we're talking about this now with Jeff Ford. There are things that we would say, yes, you are not allowed to be a deacon. It is a specific job, listed in the Bible, however you want to say it,
Right.
And,
we had appointed a deacon years ago who had been divorced. I usually do not marry people that have been divorced, so long as their spouse is still alive and there's any chance of reconciliation. So I will call their spouse or visit their spouse and see if there's any chance of reconciliation. Now, half the time that's easy because they're married, so they can't be bigamists. So they might be free to remarry. In this case, both man and wife, their husbands and wives left them when the children were small. They raised their children as single parents. They waited for 15 years in celibacy. I was happy to give my blessing for them to be remarried. And I said, this is part of the binding and loosing given to the church, that we have bound to that previous marriage, and the other spouses had moved on as well. So there's no chance to reconcile the marriage. And I was happy to marry them. And I had a church, a family, a large family leave the church in part over that, because they disagreed with it, and I was sorry to see them go. But I think that there are extenuating circumstances, and God expects us to use our common sense. I think he sees it as clear biblical issue. And I'd say with the pastoral epistles, you got to be careful, because when you read through those qualifications, a pastor can't be a brawler. What if he gets in a fight once? Is he disqualified forever? No, these are things that characterize the man. And the same thing goes for every qualification for pastors and deacons. These are things that characterize the man. The reason why we would say one adulterous affair disqualifies you forever is because that will characterize you forever. Other things you can live down, but you will always be known as someone who is unfaithful to your wife.
All right, moving on. Hi, I live in France. It's the French presidential elections on Sunday, and
sorry to hear that.
come on now. All right, let's just it's the French president, and yeah, we have patrons in France. That's awesome. All right, you know, I'm supportive. You can lambast if you want to.
I'm supportive for your I'm happy for your $5.95 from France.
Well, and I mean, you taught history. You understand how much France supported
cheese eating surrender monkeys. I no longer
come on now.
Patron from France. You should change your national flag to just white, because there's never been a war you didn't surrender. Let's go on. Sorry, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah,
I'm messing with
you.
There's good people. There's good people everywhere.
I was gonna say that France
about Canadians.
France was a big part of the supportive reason why America won its independence. They supported us.
And France was a big reason why the South lost the Civil War, because the French would not come to our aid. So with their Navy. Yeah. So I'm still sore. I'm a little bit sore over that.
Win some, you lose some, I guess.
Yeah. So what's Frenchie's question?
So anyway, it's the French presidential election on Sunday.
I love you.
And the general message from our evangelical leaders is that a Christian shouldn't want to impose his values on others by his vote. I strongly disagree. What do you think?
The lady, right? That's who we support. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked. I believe so. Yeah.
Oh crap! Like, I pay attention. America, like, there's politics outside of America. And recently Trudeau.
Yeah, I believe there's a populist candidate that I believe.
There's a populist French candidate. France, woman president.
But I mean,
no, that's not Edith Carson. Macron. No, Le Pen.
But
Le Pen, isn't Le Pen who we should be supporting?
I'd have to look, but to answer the general question, yes, we agree with you that Christians should want to impose their values by their vote. It's absolutely what we should be doing.
I will impose my values however I can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to tell you how to vote, but I think I could be totally wrong. Don't listen to me.
Yeah. I
just know from the news feeds, because I'll see the headlines but not click the articles. Sometimes isn't Le Pen in there with Trump and the populist takeover of Europe? Is it like, if she was English, wouldn't she be part of Brexit rather?
Yeah, Le Pen would, I think, be most closely aligned with us, but they do it differently in France. It's not. I mean, there's like rounds, right? There's rounds to this process, and so they.
I don't know, but let me tell you something. It's not Christians probably saying, I don't want to impose my values on other people by how I vote. It's probably non-Christians saying, I don't want to impose my values on people how I vote. Just like what happens at the Gospel Coalition right before they tell you who to vote for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they pulled this on Americans in 2020, of course, when before the presidential election you had all sorts of big Eva characters coming out saying it's kind of like the same, you know.
We're called to be salt and light and make a difference in the world. Why would you not use every arsenal at your disposal to make a difference in the world? Especially one that God gave you. God gave you, I mean, the glorious revolution that in 1689 in Great Britain, God gave you the French Revolution. Why not use these revolutions that God gave you to have who gave them? God. Why would you squander your birthright? Use whatever God has given you to be salt and light wherever you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me if I don't know the name of Zelensky's challenger in Ukraine. I don't know. I barely keep up with Montana politics. But yes, why preachers should be involved in politics. I've written and spoken much on that, and not just preachers, but Christians in general. Take over your library boards, your school boards, your city councils, your local, I'm probably speaking Greek to the French guy, but take over everything.
Well, and these are recommendations, by the way, coming from two premillennialists. By the way,
yes,
we're not
reconstructionists. We're not post-millennial reconstructionists. God has given you influence. Use it. I don't.
You can tell that by our lack of tattoos. I have no tattoo sleeves.
Yeah, I have zero tattoos. Do you have zero tattoo sleeves?
Yeah, zero.
Me, David. Zero tattoos.
Yeah.
Anywhere on your body. Okay, we're perfectly clean.
Yeah.
I can shake your hand now. So.
All right. Moving on.
Use it.
I recently listened to an old Vodi Bacham video about Reformed Baptist theology. In it, he mentioned Lutheranism is not part of Reformed theology. How is this so?
I don't know, other than that he's wrong. It is Reformed theology in that they hold to the first three solas: sola fide, sola Christus, and sola gratia. They do not hold the sola scriptura, and they do not hold the sola deo gloria. So if you're defining Reformed as holding to all five of the solas, then they're not Reformed. But as a Baptist, I would say they need to keep reforming. They smell kind of Catholic-y. They need to keep joining us Protestants over here.
Well, and in the way that the term Reformed theology is currently used, they're not Reformed in terms of it being Calvinist by, mostly Calvinist. And there are some.
If you use Reformed as a synonym for Calvinism, which I've told you not to do 5 billion times, then
but it is used that way,
Then Lutherans are not Calvinists. If you used Reformed as a synonym for Calvinists, like you're like, John MacArthur's Reformed. No, he's stinking not. All right. Then you would understand why you'd say a Lutheran's not Reformed. Now, a Lutheran will fight you on that, and they'll be like, we're the original reformers.
Like our guy started the Reformation. Can't you figure that out?
And then we're like, yeah, you started it. We finished it. You're welcome.
Yeah. Then you have to remind him that, Martin Luther still wanted to be Catholic. You know that, right?
Martin Luther still wanted to be Catholic. Martin Luther, when he penned the 95 Theses, still believed in the ascension of Mary. Martin Luther, till the day he died, did not believe the book of James.
He had his issues, like all of us.
He had his issues. He had to keep reforming. There was so much reforming that had to be done from the Catholic Church. It was absolutely impossible for any one person to make all of those reforms in their lifetime. And that goes for John Calvin.
Yep.
That would take several hundred years of Reformation.
Yep. All right.
I truly do believe that if Luther was alive today, he'd be a Baptist.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Moving on. I'm a 2019 grad of Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Sorry. Just teasing.
Good for you.
I've spent the better part of 2 years trying to unlearn a lot of things, specifically biblical counseling, as was taught by Robert Jones from Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. What are good non-woke books for issues pertaining to pastoral counseling?
And none that I have or that I care to have. There's Nouthetic counseling. Look up Paul Dean. Let me look that up real quick. Okay, I'll give you the name of the book. Paul Dean. He's a personal friend of mine, great counselor. And there's some books on Nouthetic counseling. Paul Dean. counselor, Christian. I'm sorry, I'm such a slow typer. It's
well,
my.
and in my research on the Roy's stuff, attacking MacArthur and attacking Master's Seminary, what I've seen from their pastoral counseling classes is like, this is pretty legit. Like, this is, they're preaching this biblically.
Paul Dean has a radio talk show you can pick up on at Christianity.com. He's an author at Crosswalk. He was the president of some organization. I guess he's not anymore. Oh, the Biblical Counseling Coalition. He's the president of the Biblical Counseling Coalition. Listen, Christian counseling is ideally, okay. Here's what you're going through. Here's what the Bible says about that. That's number one. Number two, focus on the wounds of Christ, no matter what you're going through. His passion. And number three, refer when it's out of your element. I mean, I carry suicide cards with me. I hand them out rarely. I mean, I don't run into that many suicidal people, but it was somebody that was very severe, and I'm trained in applied suicide intervention skills training. I called the victim's advocate. Paula had her come over, and we three-wayed the person on the phone and referred them to Paula because she's more of an expert than I am. And just nobody from church, just a community person, which doesn't count as biblical counseling and doesn't answer your question, and gave him the number to the suicide hotline. So there are sometimes that things are just out of your control. You're not fit to handle them. I'm not saying the Bible's not fit. I'm saying that you, given your knowledge of the Bible, are not fit to handle it. I do believe the Bible is sufficient for all forms of counseling, except that which is of a general revelation status, so to speak. That's the wrong way to phrase it. If you got a chemical misfiring in your brain, John 3:16 isn't going to fix that. You might want to consider something that will even out the chemicals in your brain, because your brain is a part of your body the same way as your heart or your kidneys. And nobody would say, what are you taking that cholesterol for? Jesus will cure it. Why are you taking that kidney medicine? Jesus will cure it. You don't need dialysis. Now, nobody but Kenneth Copeland would say stupid crap like that. So if you have a problem with your brain, which is a part of your body, believe me, I've seen it shotgunned and splattered on the wall. It's a part of your body. It's an organ. If it's misfiring and it needs medicine, that's outside your power as a pastor to do. What I would say when you recommend someone to go see a doctor is to say, I'd ask the doctor, is this situational depression? Like, let's say it's depression. Is this situational depression or is this clinical depression? If it's situational depression, I don't need medicine. If it's clinical depression and I got something misfiring in my brain, then I might need something. And I say that because, people's spouses die, they go get put on Xanax, and they're on it for the rest of their life. Or they're on it for the next 20 years. And then when 20 years goes by, guess what? They start mourning the loss of their spouse because they never dealt with it biblically, or how God intended us to deal with loss. So I would discourage it very much. And as so far as children are concerned, keep your kids off drugs. That goes for Ritalin, that goes for everything. Handle children behaviorally, not chemically, please and thank you.
Next question.
Yeah.
All right. So considering the topic of this question, I'm going to try to ask you to keep it shorter than you might. Curious what your thoughts are on being a Christian prepper.
Zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, it's a prepper question.
All right.
How do I care for people who didn't prep but know that I prepped. I'm the only one in my family who preps, so I'm prepping for 8+ instead of just my husband and me.
You don't. You warned them to prep. That was your contribution.
Like, yeah, all right, so we're assuming here that this
So I
person
had
is.
I had a deacon come to me and say, "So you wouldn't let me in your bunker?" I don't have a bunker, actual bunker, but he's like, "You
Uh-huh.
you wouldn't let me in your bunker and eat your food and use some of your guns?" And I'm like, "Nope, not even if I had my 5 kids. Nope. Why not? Because that's for my 5 kids." So you're asking me, am I willing to put your family above my family? The biblical answer would be no. Because the man doesn't take care of his own family, he's worse than an infidel.
Mm-hmm.
So the best I can do is warn you to prep. And he took it to church discipline, called 2 witnesses, and tried to get me in trouble for saying I wouldn't let him into my bunker in case there was a zombie apocalypse. Then guess what? He moved away, became CREC, became CREC, called me on the phone out of the clear blue and said, "Okay, I'm starting to see some of this stuff come down and I'm starting to prep and I apologize."
Well, that's a good.
Because now I'm prepping and I'm afraid it's too late. And I said, "Hey man, great.
How
Go
often
ahead
does
and
this
do that.
happen to you?
I forgive you."
How often does
What?
this? How often does this happen where you got some scuffle with somebody and then later on they're like, "Oh, I guess you were right." It seems to happen a lot.
I think every time. No, not every time.
Like,
Garrett, there's this really effeminate guy named Garrett Mullet and Ashley Lauren Mullet or something. And they have a podcast and a blog and they write about me because they went to my church once.
yeah, I saw
I'm not
that.
I'm not expect they went to my church once, so now they're an expert on JD Hall. Asked my asked my kids last night, how lame do you have to be that you're most famous for having once met JD Hall? You have to be the lamest celebrity in the history of the world. And Reagan said Garrett Mullet's like not only the poor man's JD Hall, he's like the poor man's imitation of the poor man's JD Hall. But he acts like he's an expert on me, and like he doesn't even know me. I'll never get like I'm sorry I told you so on this because I've never had a chance to tell him anything ever. But every day I get phone calls, emails. I got one today from a mutual friend of ours, David, who said that he was going to publicly apologize regarding an incident in which he scolded me for being wrong and he found out I was right.
Yeah,
So no,
I have my
happened today.
guesses, but we'll just wait.
We'll see if he follows through.
Espresso was asking JD, do you have a ham radio?
Yes.
Yeah, you probably have like 3 or 4 hidden in different places.
Well, I don't have 3 or 4, but I mean, family members. What we have at our church is ham radio towers spread out far enough. Ham radios know how to use them so that we can communicate if the grid goes down, so that we can distribute food to hungry people using our gas reserves. So that's why we have ham radios. I'm not good at using it. I'd have to use a book or invite somebody over that knew how to use it. I do not have a license, so I'm not allowed to transmit. It's just a matter of listening. And ham radios are awesome, man. And those guys that are we had a guy from a mountain up in Whitefish call us, and he can reach the ionosphere and talk to people in like Australia and Africa on his handheld ham radio. So I would encourage people to not get a license at all, because when the government wants to shut down communications, they're going to start coming to your house and taking your equipment. Nor would I endorse anyone putting up a ham radio tower. Don't do that. Get a barn or your attic, run wire all the way through your attic and all the way through your barn roof so that it serves as one giant antenna. So they can't see the antenna, go, that's a CB antenna, and then go knock it over. And I made sure with our county that we have enough county. I talked to a commissioner, I don't know, 3 months ago about where our ham radios are, how to use them in the case of emergencies, et cetera. So, yeah.
All right. Our church has nearly stopped all giving to the Southern Baptist Cooperative Program and in all probability will be departing the SBC. Where might be a good place for our local church to start in the process of funding missionaries?
Heart Cry Missionary Society.
How big is, I mean, that's, Paul Washer's net. How big is that network?
Big.
And it's and not SBC affiliated.
Correct. Heart Cry.
Awesome. Our Montana church.
It's who we give our money to.
Our Montana church is considering joining the Reformed Baptist Network. What are your thoughts? We are growing 70, 80 on a Sunday with many little ones, young families, renting another church.
What is your Montana Reformed Baptist Church, did you say?
What's that?
What is the Montana Reformed Baptist Church that has 70 or 80 people in it? Because I was not aware that there was another Reformed Baptist megachurch in Montana.
that's mega church and Reformed Baptist circles. 70, 80.
Yes.
That's massive.
Yes, that's a Reformed Baptist.
You can't even fit it in a house.
I pastor a mega church, dude.
Yeah.
Does he say where his church is?
I think I could probably tell you this. This is Virginia. She's saying
let's see. That's Missoula.
Yeah, Missoula.
Yeah. So what was your question though? I forgot.
What do you think about the church joining the Reformed Baptist Network?
I wouldn't be for it. I would be for them joining ARBCA. Reformed Baptist Network does not require strict adherence to the London Baptist Confession, 1689. The ARBCA does require strict adherence to the 1689, and strict adherence is the way to go. If they joined RAN, good for them. I'm proud of them. It's just not my cup of tea. So I believe that the Pope is the Antichrist. They may not, and therefore they'd probably be welcome in RAN. But ARBCA has really fallen apart because of some sex scandals caused by chantry. So RAN, there's not a lot left. So I want to say go for it, but I would say let RAN know that you personally, your church holds to full subscription of the 1689. Now, what I know about Virginia's church, and I could be wrong, is that I don't think they're Reformed. I think they're Calvinists, but I could be wrong.
So, next question here. I asked this question a few months ago in JD's absence. David gave an answer. I'm still interested in hearing JD's thoughts. Thanks a lot. I'm just joking. I live in Canada, just north of North Dakota. I'm concerned that in the coming years, we may have to defend our families with something more than just a keyboard. What does the Lord require of me? I understand more than ever our laws are not the measure of right and wrong. Do you have any wisdom or resources in this area of faith?
Are you talking about running guns to Canada?
I don't know if he said that, but I think it's more like I think this is more like what are our moral obligations if it comes to, hey, we got to use more than keyboards, if you know what I mean.
My taxi driver that I always use when I'm in California got attacked and brutally beaten. He and his girlfriend. I mean, I could still see the blood on his head. Didn't own a gun, couldn't own a gun. because it's Mexico. I made a side trip. So I got two choices. I can run them a gun down to Mexico, which winds me up in federal prison. Unless you're Obama and it's, Fast and Furious, and then you can take thousands of guns to Mexico with no repercussions whatsoever, even if they kill American patrol officers. Or I can tell him what I told him today, which was, or yesterday, whenever, move to America, dude, where it's free. You live just north of North Dakota. Do you have any idea the gun laws in North Dakota? I got pulled over one time with, like, I kid you not, at least 8 or 9 guns in my truck. And the deputy looks in and he's like, all right, you got your driver's license and registration? He never even commented on the guns. It's like, move to the land of the free and the home of the brave. And if you're just north of North Dakota, my friend, I might have a job for you. I might have a church for you. I might have a house for you. Because North Dakota and I live right by North Dakota, 3 miles away. I can help you out depending upon where you're moving to, brother. So just send me an email, jd@gideonknox.com, and try to help you move to a free country.
It reminds me a little bit of, did you ever see Get On Up, the James Brown movie with Chadwick Boseman?
No, I have not. I'll also add, I am sure that there are plenty of guns where you live.
Yeah.
Hidden in people's backyards.
Yeah. So I don't know if I've told this little anecdote, but I always like to bring it out when I'm talking, when I'm trying to, talk awesome about America versus other places. But there's a part in that movie where James Brown is forced to let the Rolling Stone, he's forced to open up for the Rolling Stones when they're, young kids nobody really knows. They come to America in the British invasion, and he's like, who are the Rolling Stones? I have to open up for the Rolling Stones. This is, he's like, this is nonsense. Nobody knows who these kids are. Nobody's going to know who they are, and so the Rolling Stones do their thing, or they're going to go on last, because that's what if you're the headliner, you go on last. And so James Brown goes on stage with his band and just blows them away. And he's walking off stage. When he's done, he just looks at him. He's like, "Welcome to America." It's awesome. It's my favorite part of the movie.
God bless America. And that's the last word, because I promised somebody that I would call him. I'm out of state. I promised somebody that I would call him at 9:00 their time, which it's no, hold on a second. 8:00 their time. It's 9:00 my time. I'll be home soon. And David, get this out as soon as you can. I think we blew the crap out of Karen Swallow Pryor.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye, Danny Aiken. See you later, Bart Barber. Maybe in Anaheim, if you're man enough to show up. God bless you. Talk to you later. Until then, as always, Semper Reformanda.